Just last week, in several cases, the soldier said, Israeli troops deliberately targeted children. There was a boy who entered the zone. He didn't do anything. Other soldiers claimed to have seen him standing, talking to people. That's it.
And
they dropped a grenade from a drone. In another incident, soldiers tried to kill a child riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted for it.
So they have not been prosecuted. Alan, don't lie on television where people can fact you. None of them have been prosecuted.
Yes, they have been.
Which soldier?
I know they have been.
Which soldier was prosecuted for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens
You're lying
of them who,
on national TV. Piers Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
In today's video, Mehdi Hasan absolutely destroys Alan Dershowitz in a heated debate on Piers Morgan. While Alan Dershowitz tried to run his usual defense playbook for Israel, Mehdi Hasan came prepared with facts on civilian casualties, blockades, illegal settlements, and the catastrophic human cost of this war. Mehdi Hasan even called out the double standards in how we talk about violence and who gets labeled as a terrorist. So let's dive in and watch how Mehdi Hasan shuts down Alan Dershowitz on Piers Morgan.
Of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child. That is a lie. A demonstrable lie. Everyone watching right now.
Hang on.
I'm sorry, you can't say things.
Hang on. Just to be clear, Alan, what Mehdi is saying is that no Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child since this war began. Is your information different to that?
Absolutely different. I know for a fact because I was involved in the negotiations with the International Criminal Court, and I arranged for Khan to come to Israel and see the evidence of what has been done, how people have been prosecuted, how the Israeli legal system has been responsive. So I have all the data and all the information.
Name them. Come back on the show and name those soldiers.
It's true that they've been prosecuted.
Come back on this show, Alan, and name those soldiers. I challenge you. Now, I'll finish my point. You interrupted me. Hold on. You interrupted me. I never interrupted you. You've interrupted me twice now on this show.
I didn't interrupt you.
You did, actually. You interrupted to make false claims.
I did ask Alan a question.
Well, let me finish my point. Actually, my second point, Piers, was to you. I dealt with the Gershon Baskin and the deliberate killing of kids. They just killed 6 kids queuing up for water.
I was about to talk about
yesterday. They killed 9 kids queuing up for nutritional supplements last week. Stop interrupting, Alan. Everyone can see you do it.
And it's under investigation.
Stop interrupting, Alan. Otherwise, I'll do it to you and you really won't like it. Piers, let me make my point to you that I'm trying to make. You mentioned the New York Times. I'm glad you've mentioned the New York Times several times. The New York Times piece, the long piece, has a lot in there. 2 important points for you, Piers. I've been coming on this show for over a year talking to you about Gaza. Last April and July, the New York Times reports that Netanyahu's own generals told him there's no military strategy left. There's nothing more we can do. Stop this war. Netanyahu overrode them. So when I was on this show and you were telling me, of course, they're just defending themselves. What else should they be doing? At that time, when I was on this show, Piers, generals were telling Netanyahu there's no war left to be had. They also make it very clear in this piece that the government would have fallen apart had Netanyahu not prolonged the war because he wanted to avoid prosecution. Yeah. And I'm sorry that we needed the New York Times to say that, because I was saying that on this show to you, Piers. Many people were saying that this war is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. This is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. I know Alan is an expert on criminals. He's defended some of the worst criminals in the world.
Lawyers do defend criminals.
Well, he defends some of the worst people. Epstein, Netanyahu.
Yeah, but lawyers...
No one forced him to defend these lawyers.
Some of the best
Piers, no one forced him to go volunteer to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
You can't make aspersions against lawyers.
I can actually. I can say you don't need. You don't need to.
It's not very credible to do that.
Really?
Lawyers do their job.
Hold on, Piers. Somebody forced Alan Dershowitz to defend Netanyahu. He said he's proud to do it. No one forced him to do it.
Which criminal should he defend?
I'm proud to do it.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
He's a criminal lawyer.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. You defend the worst people in the world.
I was proud. Yes. And I was proud to defend Bill Clinton, and I was proud to defend Ted Kennedy. I've defended people on I've also defended Palestinians who were charged with offenses in Israel. I've also defended Palestinian students at Harvard who wanted to put up a Palestinian flag.
Have you defended Netanyahu's corruption trial? I think you've only defended his war crime.
Mehdi Hasan brought up documented reports, not rumors, but credible investigations showing Israeli soldiers deliberately targeting Palestinian children, including dropping grenades from drones and shooting at kids on bicycles. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a larger pattern of excessive force and complete impunity. As Mehdi Hasan rightly pointed out, not a single soldier has been prosecuted for these killings. None. This has been corroborated by multiple human rights organizations, including B'Tselem and Human Rights Watch. Then there's the New York Times piece Mehdi Hasan referenced. It explicitly stated that Israeli generals themselves admitted there was no military strategy left in Gaza and that Netanyahu kept the war going to save his own political skin and avoid corruption charges. That's not just some hot take, it's backed up by serious reporting. Meanwhile, let's talk about the bigger picture. Israel's military campaign has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, most of them civilians, entire families wiped out, kids standing in line for food gunned down. This is not self-defense, this is collective punishment on an unimaginable scale. Alan's attempts to deflect by saying he's defended Palestinians in the past or referencing legal technicalities totally missed the point. The reality on the ground speaks for itself. Gaza is facing what many legal scholars and international experts have called a genocide. Mehdi Hasan was right to call it out, and he did so with receipts, clarity, and moral courage. Watching him take on Alan's evasions in real time was genuinely satisfying, and it reminded us that calling for basic human rights and accountability isn't radical, it's the bare minimum.
You know what, Mehdi? I do think it's a very lame...
I've been involved in his corruption trial too.
It's a very... I've always felt... A lot of people try this with Alan Dershowitz. Because there are lots of things you can argue with Alan about what he believes. Yeah. But when people go ad hominem about him being a lawyer defending bad
Piers,
people...
well, I'm going to respond now since both come
Most criminal lawyers I've ever met at some stage defend pretty
Piers,
dodgy
I want
people.
You, Piers, look
it's
at that...
their job, literally their job.
We're looking at our cameras. Look at your camera and say honestly that you would say to Saddam Hussein's law or Slobodan Milosevic's law or Vladimir Putin's law, you wouldn't say a word about people who choose in the West to go defend those people? Yes, you would. It's just you give Netanyahu a pass. I see him in the same league as Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, Slobodan Milosevic. If a Westerner chooses to go defend these people, no one forced him to. I'm going to question their moral judgment.
Do they have a right to defend?
Of course they have a right to a defence.
Then they should have a right.
But no one forced.
Well, hang on. Then they should have a right to have a lawyer defending them.
Of course.
You understand that?
Understood.
That's how the legal system works.
So if a British...
justice
Hold
works.
on, Piers. If a British lawyer volunteered to go defend Putin, you wouldn't cast any moral aspersions on them. Don't lie, Piers. You know you would.
So just to be clear, who should Alan be defending? Give me some criminal names.
People in New York, people wherever he lives.
Which criminals?
Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
Give me some names.
Hold on. Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
I think it's a crazy attack.
I look at vile people and I wonder, why would you volunteer to go defend that person?
Because they're lawyers.
Let's just start with the core point. Mehdi Hasan wasn't arguing that people don't deserve a legal defense. Obviously they do. That's a fundamental principle of justice. His point was about moral choice. You don't have to volunteer to defend every monstrous leader or corrupt politician out there. No one forced Alan to stand up for Netanyahu, Trump, or Epstein. He chose to, and Mehdi's totally right to call him out on that. It's like Mehdi Hasan said, if a Westerner lawyer today decided to represent Vladimir Putin in The Hague, we'd absolutely question that choice. We wouldn't just shrug and say, well, that's how the system works. We'd say, why did you choose to use your time and credibility to help a guy accused of war crimes? It's not about whether people have a right to a defense. It's about why you would want to be the one standing next to them. Then there's the deeper point Mehdi Hasan made. Israel's government under Netanyahu is facing credible accusations of committing war crimes and possibly genocide in Gaza. According to the UN and multiple human rights organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, there's evidence of indiscriminate bombings of civilians, targeting of hospitals and aid workers, and collective punishment, all in violation of international law.
Just to be clear, I haven't turned against Israel. I've turned against the current... I want to be very specific, because people love to throw around these phrases.
I agree with you. I apologize. I agree.
I've become increasingly critical of the Israeli government strategy in Gaza. That's my specific position. I'm not against Israel or Israelis or Jewish people. And
I agree.
When people conflate it, I think it's really disingenuous. All right, Mehdi.
A few things.
I agree with you, and I apologize for any implication to the opposite. But that has been the strategy.
Okay, well,
but prevailing, and we
that is always the
strategy.
Yeah, but Alan, that is always the terrorist strategy. It was the strategy of Al Qaeda. It was the strategy of ISIS. So
that's right.
Yeah, but
that's right. And the United States overreacted too.
Let me get Mehdi's response. Mehdi.
So, a lot was said there again. Yeah. Let me try and respond. This is insane to suggest that Israel has accidentally killed 17,000 children. Anyone who says that should be laughed off television, whether they're a professor of law or not. 17,000 people were not killed accidentally. The children who were killed in a waterline were not killed accidentally. The children lining up, 9 who were killed last Thursday for nutritional supplements, as UNICEF says, outrageously for UNICEF aid, were not killed accidentally. Children who were shot in the head by snipers were not killed accidentally. I have friends of mine, doctors, who have gone out to Gaza and have come back and said, we saw kids were brought to hospital with sniper shots, bullets to the head, to the chest. Multiple American doctors have said that. Feroz Sidwa, Mark Perlmutter, Irfan Galaria. Go Google it. People don't believe me. So it's nonsense. Israel is killing kids deliberately, has done so for the last 21, 22, whatever so months. You can't push this bullshit line anymore about people were hiding under hospitals.
No, do you disagree?
We've seen it on tape, Piers.
Okay,
we've seen kids killed in cold blood on tape. You've seen it. I've seen it.
Do you disagree? Do you disagree with what Alan said, that this was Hamas's deliberate strategy?
I don't know what Hamas's deliberate strategy was.
And
if it was, by the way, Piers,
hang on, let me finish the question. They created a vast tunnel network in which they hid, but left the civilian population to be slaughtered. So, in other words, I think it's perfectly rational to agree with what Alan said about the Hamas strategy.
Yeah, but hold on. What's interesting is, and as you pointed this out, why do it then? If we all know that's the strategy, no one forced Israel to go kill 100,000 people, just like, the Vietnam, the US, we burned the village to save it. No one forced Israel to drop 2,000-pound bombs on crowded refugee places. No one forced Israel to bomb hospitals. No one forced Israel to sniper shoot children. No one forced Israel to kill women holding up white flags, as we saw on tape with our own lying eyes. No one forced Israel to do any of that, which is why Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, which is why the ICC judges all said Netanyahu and Gallup need to face war crimes charges.
A corrupt prosecutor.
Theodore, hold on, just to be clear on this. I know this propaganda is coming out. Theodore Myron, who is a former chair of the International Tribunal on Yugoslavia, former Rwanda tribunal judge, former legal advisor to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, former Israeli ambassador. Theodore Myron, 94 years old, descendant of Holocaust survivors. He advised on that indictment and said, yes, Netanyahu should be indicted on the basis of all the evidence I've seen. He knows far more about war crimes than you do.
Mehdi Hasan made an excellent point about the so-called Hamas human shield excuse. Sure, Hamas does embed within civilian areas. It's a known fact. But that doesn't justify wiping out entire neighborhoods. If Israel knows that Hamas wants them to kill civilians as a PR strategy, which they do, then why play right into their hands and kill civilians in massive numbers? It's the exact opposite of a smart military strategy and is ethically indefensible. And let's not forget, Israel is using US supplied weapons and billions in military aid. American taxpayers are funding these bombings, so people have every right, and I'd argue responsibility, to question what's being done in their name. Another fact Mehdi Hasan didn't get to at the moment, but is worth mentioning: multiple UN agencies and independent human rights organizations have documented evidence of war crimes. The UN even passed regulations calling for immediate ceasefire, yet Israel pushed ahead. And no, not a single Israeli soldier has been held criminally accountable for these civilian deaths. Mehdi Hasan's arguments might sound intense, but that's because the reality on the ground is horrific. This isn't just some theoretical policy debate. It's about tens of thousands of innocent lives.
Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.